everybody. Welcome to our 2022 January repeaters course. And that's our code there. This class had to be re-recorded because there were some errors in the first recording. All right, so it always seems impossible until it's done. Welcome, CML Online, and our January 2022 revision course. So in today's agenda, we continue with paper 32, past papers and solutions, and some recap. Paper 32s, and in particular, paper 32, May 2018. So the first part of the question reads, the internal angles in degrees of a quadrilateral are 12x plus 15, 17x minus 10, x plus 50, and 15x plus 35. Find the value of x. Okay, so first things first, this word quadrilateral means a four-sided figure. Quad, this part here, means four, lateral means side. So it means a four-sided figure. All right, and the four-sided figure also has four angles. What are the angles? The angles are this one. This is the first angle, 12x plus 15. That is angle number 1. The second angle is 17x minus 10. This is angle number 2. And this is x plus 50. This will be angle number 3. And this one is 15x plus 35. And so this will be angle number 4. So it is a quadrilateral, it has four sides, and it has four angles. There's no questions there, right? So let's go on to what the question is asking us to do. It's saying, find the value of x. Now, anytime we have a instruction like find the value of x, evaluate the unknown, calculate the unknown, is actually mathematics code for form an equation with the unknown. In order for you to find the unknown, you must first form an equation and use that equation to calculate the unknown. That's what this expression actually means. When they say find the value of x, they are expecting you to understand that you should form an equation in x, which is the unknown in this case, and then solve. Any questions? I hope that's clear with everybody. So what are we going to do? We're going to say, we're going to form that equation in the unknown based on some knowledge of mathematics pertinent or relevant to the question. What part of mathematics is relevant to the question? Well, the words of the question tell you which part. There's internal angles. That tells me something, right? And then there's the quadrilateral. That's a closed shape. That tells me something else. So those are two clues. The internal angles inside a quadrilateral, and by extension, the internal angles inside any shape in mathematics, in geometry, is equal to n minus 2 multiplied by 180 degrees. What does this mean? The n is the amount of angles that you have in the shape. The 180 degrees is always there. The minus 2 is always there. This brackets with the 180 degrees actually means after you subtract, you will multiply the answer in the brackets by the number 180 degrees. Okay, so let's apply it in principle to the question above. So we have a quadrilateral, that's a four-sided shape, which means it has four angles. So n is 4. Okay, and the interior angles are these interior angles that we said before. This is the first interior angle here. This is the second interior angle here. This is the third interior angle here. And this is the fourth interior angle here. Any questions there? Hope that is clear. Also, if you notice very carefully, each expression of x is separated from the next expression of x by a comma. A comma is telling me that the angles are separate from one another. In other words, they are more than one. And in this case, they are 1, 2, they are 3, 4 angles. Again, 4 angles, and it's a quadrilateral, which is a 4-sided figure. So n is going to be 4. So what I'm going to do now, the next line, I'm going to add up all the angles because the word sum means to add. This word here, sum, means to add up all the interior angles. I'm going to put it equal to n minus 2 into 180. But in this case, the n will be 4. So let's see what it looks like. So we have 12x plus 15 from here, plus 17x minus 10, which is here, plus x plus 50, which is here, plus 15x minus plus 35, sorry, which is here. When we add up all of those things, it's going to be equal to 4 minus 2. 4 is the number of angles or number of sides of the shape. So it's 4 minus 2 multiplied by 180. 4 replaces the n. There's a minus sign here. There's a minus sign here. There's a 2 here. There's a 2 here. And between the brackets and the 180, they're very close, is actually a multiplication sign. That's understood in mathematics in general. Okay, so the next step is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add up all the x's, add up all the numbers, and put it equal to whatever I work out here. And you can clearly see that this is 4 minus 2, which is 2 multiplied by 180. So I should get 360 on this side. So let's see how it goes. So when I add up all the x's, I get 45. When I add up all the numbers, I get 90. Remember, when you're adding the numbers, make sure to take note of the negative sign as well. So it's going to be plus 15, plus or minus button on the calculator, 10, plus 50, plus 35. And when you do that, you will get plus 90. When you add up all the x's, you will get 45x. Any questions there? Take it in for a second and see if you understand it. Next, 4 minus 2 will give me 2, and 2 multiplied by 180 will give me 360. Any questions there? What's the next step? I'm going to make x the subject. So I'm going to put the 90 over on this side. So I'll get 360 minus 90, and then I'm going to divide the entire thing by 45x. So it should look something like this. When I do that, I will get 6. That's why x is equal to 6. Okay, so the alternative method is not necessarily alternative, but we can even speed it up a bit more if we say 45x plus 90 is equal to 360. Then 45x is equal to 360 minus 90. Then 45x is equal to, what's 360? Take away 90, that will give me 270. Then x is equal to 270 divided by 45, which is 6. Okay, you can choose this method here or the method I did below. Either way is fine. This method might be a bit quicker. This method is purely for a complete display of what is happening. All right. Any questions there? I hope that's clear to everybody. What happens next? Let's press on Since we got what x is, we can press on with the other part of the paper. So in this case, we're going to apply the idea we had in the previous slide about interior angles, and we're going to find what x is. We're going to look at what is the value of x. Okay, as they say, find the measure of each interior angle. But before we find each interior angle, we must try to figure out what x is first. So let's check out what x is. So what is the principle? The sum of the interior angles of any shape is equal to n minus 2 into 180 degrees. Okay, or n minus 2 multiplied by 180 degrees. Let's apply that to this shape here. So to be x plus 2x plus 3x plus 4x is equal to, the n represents how many angles we have. How many angles do we have? We have 4. So it's going to be 4 minus 2 multiplied by 180 degrees. X plus 2x is 3x, plus 3x is 6x, plus 4x is 10x. 10x is equal to 4 minus 2 is 2 by 180. Then 10x is equal to 2 by 180, which is 360. 360, sorry, right? Which means x is equal to 360 over 10, which gives me 36. Any questions there? So x is 36. So which means if x is 36, then we can go ahead and figure out what 2x is, which is angle y, what 3x is, which is angle w, and what 4x is, which is angle z. Let's observe that a bit and see if it makes sense to you. Awesome. So if x is equal to 36, then we can clearly see that we can get what? Y, w, and z by simply multiplication. Okay, as we see over here, angle x, this is just simply angle x, is 36, which we got already. Angle y is 2x, or 2 by x. That's what angle x is. Sorry, that's what angle y is, 2 by x, which is 2 by 36 is 72. Angle w is 3x, which is 3 by x. X is 36, so it's 3 by 36, which is 108. And then angle z is 4x, which is 4 by 36, which is 144. And if you add all of these angles up, right here, if you add up this angle here, and this angle, and this angle, you will get 360 degrees. So take a minute and add it up and tell me if you get 360 degrees. Okay, I trust that you did get 360 degrees, which is consistent to the sum of the interior angles. Okay, the sum of the interior angles is n minus 2 by 360. That's the sum of the interior angles. N is the number of angles. How many angles we have here? We have 4. So it's going to be 4 minus 2, which gives me 2, multiplied by 180, which gives me 360. And when we add up all these angles here, we also got 360. So the problem is solved. All right, feel free to stop the tape or to renew it. Sorry, rewind it to a point where you understand it. I hope that's understandable to everybody so far. Awesome. Let's go to the next part of the question. Right, so what does it say here? The diagram below, not drawn to scale, shows 4 straight lines, POQ, which is this line here, OE, which is this line here, OC, this line, and CB, which is this line. OA is parallel to CB. So let's get what the words mean. Very important, right? So we have a parallel line there, and we have a transversal, and we also have some angles in between, and these are called interior angles. Do not forget that. That's very important. So these lines here, right? This line right here and this line here are parallel lines. What do I mean by parallel lines? Parallel lines are lines drawn such that the distance between one line to the next line is always the same along the length of each line. So the distance there is the same to here. The distance there is the same as the distance here. And it never changes. Also, parallel lines never meet. So you can draw these two lines forward this way forever in this direction, forever in this direction, or forever in the opposite directions, and they will never meet. Parallel lines do not meet. 1, 2, the distance between parallel lines is exactly the same along the length of the line. So a practical example of a parallel line can be seen like the sidewalks or the pavements in the street. On either side of the road is an example of parallel lines. All right, they never meet, and usually, well, they should be at the same distance apart. But in reality, it may or may not be so. But in mathematics, it is always like that. Now, when the parallel lines are set up in a way such that there is a transversal or a line connecting the two parallel lines together, we give rise to what are called interior angles. Okay, so these here are interior angles. And what is that we know about interior angles? Interior angles are supplementary, or another word for supplementary is to say interior angles sum to 180 degrees. As you see here, the sum, or when you add up interior angles formed by a transversal, which is this, and parallel lines, which are these, you get 180 degrees. In other words, 62 plus A will give me 180 degrees. Any questions there? Next, then A is going to be 180, take away 62, which is 118 degrees. So that answers this question here. A is going to be 118 degrees. Any questions there? Take a minute and absorb the material. Okay, so these words here help us to figure out what's happening. Okay, now ordinarily you do not see those words in the question, but you should be able to understand that is what they're getting at by the wording of the question. So take some time and read the question very carefully. before you answer it, because words mean a lot in mathematics. Right? It's not at the forefront of mathematical education, maybe it's getting there, but the language of mathematics is as important as the technique of mathematics, right? So just be aware that these things weigh on your understanding, because how best you understand the question will tell you how best you're able to respond correctly to the question, right? So spend some time, you can go through the syllabus and look at some of the mathematical words and what they mean. It will be worth your while. All right, so that's that for the A. A is 180 minus 62, which is 180 degrees. Any questions here? Next, let's find X, right? We can use the ideas that we learned a second ago and find what X is right now. If you notice carefully, I have two lines that look like parallel lines, right? There's an arrow this way, arrow this way. Those are parallel lines here. And then what else we have that we discovered in the previous slide? There's another line that's here, that's from the previous slide. See if you can identify it before I do. Found it out? That line is the transversal. Very good. Transversal connects the parallel lines together, and because of the transversal interacting with the parallel lines, it gives rise to these two angles here, which are known as interior angles. Those interior angles have special properties. When they add up, they always get 180 degrees. In other words, X plus 106 will give me 180 degrees. So let's see if we can get X. Take a minute and let's see if we can get what X equals. All right. So I hope you figured out what X is. X would therefore be 180 taken away 106. X would therefore be 74 degrees. Any questions there? Well, that's pretty much straightforward. What happens next is the next part of the question 1b2. Given that OA bisects POC and AOC is 62 degrees, find the value of B. Let's put that drawing back up. And we can clearly see that OA bisects POC, which means OA is the bisector of the angle. So if it bisects, the question is, what does bisect mean? Bisect means divide exactly in half. So this OA divides this angle here. This angle here, it divides this angle exactly in half, right? It's perfect. It divides it exactly in half. So if it divides this angle exactly in half, this angle right here, that's POC, then if this part here is 62, what will this part here be? Think about it. If OA divides POC exactly in half, and here is 62, then what will this angle here be? Think about it, and we'll be right back. Got the answer? Very good. This part here will also be 62. So if OA bisects POC, then POA, which is this angle right here, this angle here is POA, that's also 62. And we can easily find B. Why? Because we know that B lies on a straight line. Therefore, POA, which is this angle here, plus 62, which is this angle, plus B, which is this angle, gives me 180 degrees. Now, again, we see the idea that when they said to find an unknown, when we're trying to find an unknown angle, okay, or an unknown number, like they say, find the value of B, we have to always do what? What did we say before? We have to always do what? Form an equation. Form an equation with the unknown as part of the equation, and then solve for that unknown. Do not forget that. Every time we have to find an unknown, we form an equation and ensure that the unknown is part of that equation and then solve it. So in this case, POA plus 62 plus B equals 180, which means therefore that the next line will be B is equal to 180, take away 62 plus 62, which gives me 56 degrees. Right? So this is one way to do it. We can also do it another way. You can also say that POA is 62, so we know that from before here. You just simply say 62 plus 62 plus B equals 180 degrees. Then what's 62 plus 62 is going to be equal to 124. 124 plus B will give me 180. Then B is equal to 180 minus 124. And what's 180 minus 124? That will give me 56 degrees, right? Which is the same as here. So either method is fine. Right, take 1 minute and absorb that, and then we'll be right back. Okay, great. Any questions there? There are no questions. Let's press on. Now, we reach to this point where we have a similar example from before in terms of the transversal and parallel lines. So let's find what X is using the idea of parallel lines and the transversal. Remember, don't forget that this line here is parallel to this line here. And also these angles here, this angle here and this angle here are interior angles. Okay? So with that, let's take about a minute or two and try to find out what X is. As the question says, find X. Let's take 2 minutes and we'll come back. All right, so we're back. Let's check it out. It's going to be this angle plus this angle, x plus 22 plus 2x minus 13 will give me 180. That's this angle here plus this angle here, which are interior angles, will give me 180 degrees. Then I'm going to add up all the x's together and the numbers together. This x plus 2x plus 22 minus 13 will give me 180 degrees. Next, x plus 2x is actually 1x here, right? X is not 1, right? There's an idea that x is 1. X is not 1, but if you see x without a number in front of it, it is understood to be 1. All right? So this is 1x plus 2x, which will give me 3x, and then 22 take away 13 will give me 9. So let's do the next line. So it's going to be 3x, 1x plus 2x is 3x, plus 22 take away 13 will give me 9, which is equal to 180. Any questions there? Oh, there's no questions. All right, take a minute to absorb it. Next, we're going to make x the subject. So this 9 goes over on this side, it becomes negative 9. So we have 3x remains on this side, and 9 goes over on this side, it becomes negative 9. So 3x equals 180 minus 9. Next, we'll have 3x is equal to 171. And then x is equal to 171 divided by 3. Notice very carefully, as you solve, as you go down and you solve an algebraic equation, that it's like almost like an inverse pyramid. It comes down on this side, okay, and it comes down on this side. So as you solve an equation and you come down with the equation, it should become shorter and shorter as things begin to solve or dissolve, quote unquote, and you're solving what x is or y is, whatever the variable is. When that is happening, the statements are to become shorter and shorter. And that's a very good indication that you're going in the right direction. So x is equal to 171 divided by 3, and then x is equal to 57. Now, we found out what x to be, but we didn't find out what the angle is, okay? X is not the angle. The angle is a function in x. In other words, the angle involves x and another number for this one, and the angle involves x and several other numbers for this one. So to find out what this angle is, you have to substitute what x is into here. Now, they didn't ask us to find the angles, but it'd be a good idea just to find the angles still, right? They asked us to find x, and at this point, the question is completed. Do not ever do more than the question asks, but for lesson's sake and for completeness and for maybe general curiosity as well, we can go further, just to explain, and we can see what the interior angles are, right? So it's going to be, this case is going to be 57 plus 22, which is 79 degrees. And in this case, it's going to be 2 multiplied by 57 minus 13, which is 101 degrees. And if you notice as well, 101 degrees, check it up, 101 degrees plus 79 degrees will give me exactly 180 degrees. So definitely we know for a fact that these two angles here are interior angles, because interior angles always add to 180 degrees. All right, see if that makes sense to you. Take a minute and let's absorb it. Everybody, awesome. Right, let's press on with the question with the paper. Let's look at question 1C1. For this question, you may find the following formulas related to a cone useful. So these formulas here relate to a cone, and I added this formula here to relate to a cylinder. Notice I define my tank as a cylinder. So it would be a good idea to take note of these formula here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Spend some time write them down in your books. They are important equations which will help us later on into this problem. Okay. So it says a farmer constructs a storage tank as shown in the diagram below. The shape of the tank consists of a cylindrical body of height 3.5 meters, and the diameter 8 meters, and a conical roof of vertical height 1.2 meters. Now, you see some very important clues in the words of the question. And those clues are the cylindrical body. When I say cylindrical, I'm talking about a cylinder. And then they say the conical roof. When I say conical, I'm actually talking about a cone. So effectively, what they're trying to tell you here is that this structure is really a cylinder and a cone. Okay, and that's it. And it's the full idea from this the wording in the question. That's why I said mathematical wordings are very important. They indicate what the question is all about. So spend some time and look through the syllabus. There's a whole glossary of terms. Get familiar with the glossary of terms in the syllabus. That will help you with the jargon and the language of CSEC mathematics questions. And indeed, any syllabus for any subject, go through the jargon, go through the glossary of terms. Once you have the time, it can be the difference between 1 mark and 3 marks. That's a useful point to remember. So I hope there's no problems with this one. Awesome. So let's continue. Now, what we are asked to find, calculate the slanted height of L of the roof of the tank. This slanted height here, unbeknownst to many or some, the slanted height is actually forms part of a shape, of a three-sided shape, which we know very well to be a triangle. And not just any triangle too. We'll examine more deeply what type of triangle it is when we look at the base. It's going to be 4 meters, right? Assuming that, well, not assuming, looking clearly that the diameter of the base of the cylindrical part of the tank is 8 meters, and the cone sits about the center of that circle. Then the distance from here to here, which is going to be from the middle of the circle to the edge of the circle, will be half distance of 8 meters. So this is going to be 4 meters, and notably, this is a right angled triangle. There's a right angle here. There's a right angled triangle here, and there's a vertical height. There's the base here. What formula do we know that we can find the slanted height of a right angled triangle in this case is going to be the hypotenuse, given we have the other two sides. And that formula belongs to Pythagoras. And applying Pythagoras' theorem to this right angled triangle will give us L squared equals 4 squared plus 1.2 squared. What happens next? What happens next is we find what? We substitute what L squared. Sorry, we find out what's on the right hand side of the equation. So that's equal to 17.44, and the square root of 17.44 is equal to 4.1761. How do you find the square root on a calculator? If you have the sharp DAL 506TS, sorry, you just simply press the second function, x squared button, and you put 17.44 equal sign, and you'll get 4.1761 to 4 dp, or 4 decimal places. That's going to be the slanted height of the roof, or the hypotenuse of the right angled triangle. All right, so just take a minute and absorb that, and we come back. Okay, any questions here? Pretty much straightforward. There's also you can find the volume of the cone as well, which we do later on. All right, but for now, we will settle with the Pythagoras' theorem, which is what we have here. All right, so this is where we basically ended for tonight. We spoke about the volume of the cone as well, but I'm thinking I'll sit better. We start from that for the next class. All right, so that's it. Those of you who can make it, I hope you understood and enjoyed this lesson. Any questions, put it in the chat, the WhatsApp chat. That's it. Have a good night.